Longbox Review, episode 17. Hi, this is Eric from Longbox Review at longboxreview.wordpress.com.
Hey there, this is Travis from Oddfellows Thoughts at oddfellowsthoughtswordpress.com.
Travis, welcome to 2012.
Yeah.
And we're back with a new episode for the new year. We basically took December off. I think maybe even part of November. I can't remember how long ago now it's been since we last recorded.
Yeah.
I was I think I said at the end of episode 16, I was going to try and do one, maybe two more episodes before the end of the year, and that just didn't work out. The holidays, there's just too much stuff going on. My wife likes to plan a lot of things during the month of December.
Yeah.
Family and friends and stuff. Not to mention all the shopping that all the shopping that we do. So. Yeah, I just couldn't get into the studio and record. So
Oh, well, yeah.
Here we are. But hopefully I plan to do a lot more recordings for 2012. I really want to focus on that. So I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about as the year unfolds. So Travis, how was your Christmas?
Long. Enjoyable, but long. Holiday season is always long for me. With my real life and whatnot, tends to wrap up so much stuff. I didn't do any reviews or videos or anything like that over the holiday season either, just because it was, so busy with different stuff and whatnot that, so just a big giant gap of stuff I did that I didn't review and whatnot. But it just is. I always like the holidays, but
so
busy.
What did you? What nice comic related things did Father Christmas bring you?
You know what? Father Christmas didn't bring me a darn thing that was comic.
Oh, you were a bad boy.
I obviously was. No, I can't wait for Christmas, and anything I want, I buy right off hands.
Well, that's one way to do it, I guess.
So there you go. And the Father Christmases in my life would be hard pressed to figure out what to get me in the comic book realm. I guess I'd have to be very specific as to this is what Father Christmas should get me this year. Otherwise, they'd have no idea. They'd be getting me what I already had, or they'd be getting me.
See, Travis, this is where Amazon comes in really handy.
Oh, yeah.
Because I have a list, and it's for comic trades and graphic novels, but I have a list that I maintain, and every time my loved ones ask me what would I like for Christmas, I always say, well, excuse me, I want comics. And so, like it's like, well, what do you want? So I have to be specific, but I have a list out there for them, and they just go buy those things for me. It's great. It works out wonderfully.
I haven't thought of that. I guess I'll have to do that.
I got some really nice things. I got the Complete Echo from Terry Moore, which I will talk about later, actually, a little bit. Which I just finished. I actually let's see, Friday night. Okay, so we're right now. So everyone knows, Travis and I are recording on Sunday. Gosh, Travis, what is today? 1/14?
Yep.
15. It's 1/15.
Is it? Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So on Friday, my wife was elsewhere, and I stayed up till almost 2:00 in the morning reading Echo. It was good. It was really good. I was actually falling asleep at one point. I was really tired, and then I got to a really good part in the book, and I just had to finish. So. And then I also got a wonderful graphic novel called Blankets by Craig Thompson. Have you heard of that, Travis?
Yes, I have, and I've been wanting to get it.
Oh my gosh, you need to read it. It's a wonderful, wonderful coming of age story. First love and dysfunctional families. It's just a wonderfully written a good, well illustrated story. So, and I think your wife would like that too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I got a bunch of other trades as well. But so and then my wonderful wife almost always gets me a gift certificate to the comic book shop in Spokane where I do a lot of my shopping too. And I bought a bunch. So right after Christmas, I bought a bunch of trades that I've been wanting. So I got a huge amount of trades to read.
Nice.
So, and that's actually what I've been doing instead of recording podcasts or doing, well, I've done a few reviews since then, but instead of doing a lot of the blog stuff, I've been reading trades. So
Important research. Yeah.
exactly, exactly, which will lead into what we're going to talk about. I should have announced that maybe at the beginning of the show, now that we're a few minutes in. But really what we're here to talk about today is Travis and I are going to do the Long Box Review podcast, Best of 2011.
Yay.
But first, Travis, the news.
The news.
See, I need to put in a little did
Yeah.
or maybe that we'll just go with that crappy voice sound effect. All right, there's a couple things that have come up in the comic book world recently. I just wanted to mention, and we'll talk about just a little bit. I'll just go with the small. Well, I shouldn't say that. There's a big thing and a couple other things, but first of all, I want just mention the big news from Marvel right now, or at least the last bit of news from Marvel that I saw. Was that Walt Simonson, the great Walt Simonson, will be joining Brian Michael Bendis on his final Avengers arc.
Ah, wow.
So I thought that was interesting, at least. I always enjoyed Walt Simonson's work, although him coming back to the Avengers really isn't enough to entice me to buy that title.
Is it?
No.
I think there'll be a lot of people who will, though.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And you know what? And speaking of Walt Simonson and people being a fan of his work, you remember when he did Thor way back when in the 80s when they introduced Beta Ray Bill?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Did you get that when they were coming out with that?
No, I wasn't really a Thor fan. I paid attention to it, kind of thing, but never really purchased it and read it.
And neither did I. But do you remember Jerry at Book Trader? No.
Huh?
Dr. Rocks?
It was the Book Trader first. I always called it the Book Trader. Anyway,
right?
Yes, I remember him. Yeah.
But I think when they were doing comics, they were called Dr. Rocks, though, right? I can't remember. Anyway.
No.
Do you remember him saying you guys should get this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And promptly ignoring him.
Yeah, and we ignored him, and I've been kicking myself ever since because I've always heard how good that Beta Ray Bill story was. So.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Walt Simonson will be on the final Avengers arc. And let's see, number 2 on the list.
Now, wait a second. When you say final Avengers arc, because I don't.
I'm sorry, final Brian Michael Bendis Avengers.
Okay. I was just saying, are they ending because I don't, tell you the truth, I collect very few Marvel things, and I don't pay that close attention because it always seems like there's a million of every version of something going on. There's like 10 Avenger books and 10 X-Men books, so
pretty much.
So it's just Bendis is quitting, right? And somebody else is taking over after him.
That's right. So right now he writes Avengers and New Avengers.
And Bendis is so important that they have to celebrate his last arc.
Yes.
Okay.
I have to admit, I did read the very first arc of the latest version of Avengers, and I really liked it. It was pretty good. Unfortunately, I didn't continue on with it because I don't really care for John Romita Jr.'s art on the book. And New Avengers has just been a delight. I've really enjoyed that. Just that those characters that Bendis has put in to the New Avengers team has just been fun to read. So I'll be kind of sad that he won't be writing that anymore. But Bendis is also he will be coming out with a New Avengers book. This was also announced previously to the Walt Simonson stuff, but he'll be doing a New Avengers book featuring the characters from the movie. But apparently set in the current Marvel universe. So it's not like a separate movie universe version of the Avengers. So that'll be interesting.
Right.
to see why those characters are together. Why the Hulk is back, that kind of a thing. So that's the news from Marvel. Next on the list, a couple of DC things. Rob Liefeld has been announced that he is going to be on 3 other books that he's not currently on, and that is Deathstroke, Grifter, and the Savage Hawkman. Travis, what's your take on that?
I don't get it. I mean, okay, I don't pay 100% attention to the exact numbers of sales and whatnot, but we all know that Hawk and Dove is going away,
Right.
and it was one of the poorer sellers, right?
Oh, I'm
pretty
sure. Yeah.
And so then they put him on 3 other books, and they put him on as writing scripts and stuff. I'm not familiar with him writing at all. I mean, how much other stuff has he written? I mean, I appreciate the guy's enthusiasm and how much it seems effort that he's working his ass off to do the stuff that he's doing. But you got to have more than just effort, don't you? Don't you actually have to have actual talent to do the work?
Ooh, now hold on there.
I don't know. I know there are people who like him, and as a person, I think he's great. I love watching interviews and whatnot, because he is so enthusiastic and whatnot. But he is not my cup of tea in so many ways, as far as stylistically goes and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
That it confuses me that he's suddenly on 3 books and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I didn't collect comics during the 90s when Image was all big and whatnot when it first came out. I know he was one of the people that was part of that whole thing. And I keep hearing the conspiracy theorists keep talking about the fact they're just more and more of those guys from that 90s group are gaining more and more control over the DC universe. Not sure exactly how accurate that is because, of course, that's just the internet spewing stuff. But it does. I mean, I can't help but pause and wonder why. Why are they doing this? I mean, are the rest of these titles about ready to go out too, and they're just letting him finish them up? I mean, because he's finishing the Hawk and Dove. Well, that's because Hawk and Dove is going to be gone.
Mm-hmm.
Is he just going to finish out the last of these things? I think it's hilarious. Where I don't know. At least on Twitter, the DC sources Twitter feed is like talking about how Kyle Higgins did such a great job on Deathstroke, but of course he's not going to be on it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that's his choice or that's somebody else's choice that he's not on it. I don't know. The whole thing just seems strange, and why? What's your take on it? I don't get it.
Well, I just want to clarify. So he will be writing and drawing Deathstroke, but he's only plotting Grifter and Hawkman. So I'm not sure if
Okay, what does plotting mean? He's got great story ideas, but someone else write the script?
I guess, or maybe it's a collaboration with the artist. I'm not sure because I this morning when I checked the articles that DC has released about this, I don't think that they mentioned that. I might be wrong,
Okay.
but
So I go back to my question: how much stuff has this guy written before?
yeah,
For him to suddenly have control, and as a writer, other than the editor, you've got a lot of control, in my opinion. He's potentially he's writing one. And if he's co-plotting 2, that means he's got writing influence, right? Co-plotting means you have writing influence on 2 other books.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention the other books he's got going on for other companies and whatnot.
Yeah, because he has
at least 2.
2 at.
And he's editing some other stuff.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So Travis, as you're talking, I'm typing into Google here Rob Liefeld, and I'm going to put in writer to see what he's done. And guess what I feel like we're excuse me, I feel like we're picking on him a little bit, but guess what the number 2, just how Google will give you other searches that have come up.
Oh, it's gonna be something bad, I'm sure.
Rob Liefeld worst.
Yeah, see, and like I said, he's not my style, and I have beasts with certain things that he does. I'm not nearly as amped up as some of the other people who want to, you want to post the 40 worst drawings by Rob Liefeld and whatnot. That's not me, and I don't care to do that. I mean, there are some things that I'll always pick on him about: the fact that his smiles always have a million teeth,
mm-hmm.
and the fact that the characters never have feet. I can appreciate that because if I'm going to draw something, I try to make sure they don't have feet either. But I'm not professional.
Yeah.
Well, he's just not, like I say, he's just not my style. But I'm still just blown away. I guess it wouldn't matter even if even if this was somebody that I think does a decent job, and their book is, I don't know, for a failing. I'm assuming they didn't put these titles out that they're replacing. I'm assuming they didn't put them out with the intention of, we know they're only going to go this long. I'm sure they put them out thinking, well, it's going to be great to see which one of these take. The ones that take, yay. The ones that don't, we're going to replace.
Right.
Well, if you're one of the failing books, I mean, unless you just have a lot of faith in that creator, which obviously somebody does at DC, you might put them on another book to see how that book goes, but put them on 3.
Yeah, see, exactly. So, it was announced that he was gonna do, or at least start. It was confusing to me what they were actually saying, but I thought that, he was going to take over writing duties of Hawk and Dove for maybe an issue. At first, I thought it was an issue to fill in, and then it became, oh no, I'm gonna do this story arc, and then my perception was, oh no, he's going to be writing it for a while, and then they announced it was going to be canceled. So, so I just did so this is Wikipedia, so who knows what the what the veracity is of this information, but he has done a bunch of writing, but it looks like stuff that hasn't. I mean, it's been a long time since he's done any writing. It looks like stuff from the 90s.
Right, some of his Image stuff, right? He wrote
not just that, but Marvel stuff too.
Oh yeah, well, like Deadpool.
That's not listed here, but
okay. Because I mean, I'm assuming he wrote the stuff he created.
Oh yeah, I would imagine. See, I don't know. I missed a lot. I missed pretty much all that first Image stuff. I just ignored it. So I have no idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is interesting that he's like you say.
I mean, like I said, I got to go back, get rid of the whole pick on him personally or whatever, or his. It just seems surprising to me that if you're part of a comic that's going under.
Why would you?
Suddenly they put you. Not that they don't. I mean, I can see. Okay, it's a book that people just didn't get into. That you wouldn't put him on another book and see how that goes and whatnot. But to give him 3, it just seems. I don't know. Surprising, but I don't know how well. But I don't know how well those 3 books are doing either.
Yeah. Well, I can't imagine that they're doing gangbusters, but. They're still. I mean, they made the cut because let's go on to the next thing. DC announced that they would be canceling some books and replacing them in 2012 with the following: Batman Incorporated, which we knew was coming back anyway.
Right.
GI Combat, The Ravagers, Dial H, as in Dial H for Hero, that old recurring series. Earth 2 and World's Finest.
Yeah.
And so what they're replacing those titles, the titles that they're replacing with those that I just mentioned are Blackhawks, Hawk and Dove, like we mentioned, Men of War, Mr. Terrific, OMAC, and Static Shock. I find it really interesting, Travis. So we had 2. What do I want to say? The Blackhawks and Men of War. What do we? War comics. We had 2 war comics in Blackhawks and Men of War, and it's being replaced by GI Combat, another war comic. So down from 2 to 1. And some of these obviously are not I don't think are a big surprise. Hawk and Dove I knew wouldn't last very long. Mr. Terrific I thought might, but I'm not really surprised. OMAC I'm not really surprised. I'm sort of surprised about Static Shock, but I guess I can understand that.
I'm surprised just because of the. I mean, there is I think a healthy fan base that likes Static Shock.
Oh yeah.
I just don't know that the comic was executed very well. It didn't maintain interest in my household and got dropped. So
yeah, me too. Yeah, actually, out of all the ones that are gone, well, 2 of them I didn't pick up at all. Blackhawks and Men of War, and Hawk and Dove was the only one I kept going out of those. But that's just because I love the characters, not because it was a good comic.
Right.
So yeah, like we said, Batman Incorporated. Are you excited about that coming back at all?
Batman Incorporated. After finishing Batman Leviathan, no, not really.
Oh, really?
No.
Well, he had, Grant Morrison had all that steam, with the old volume of Batman Incorporated, and just kind of petered out because of the whole New 52 thing.
Right.
Which I thought that was weird. Why not just
They
Well,
should have continued with it
yeah,
they finally made the editorial decision to keep it back pre relaunch. That was a mistake in my opinion, because as soon as they did that, then it's like, well, hell, why didn't you just tell the story when it was being told then?
yeah. You're referring to Leviathan.
Python,
Yeah.
yeah,
hmm
and
That was an odd choice, but I also appreciated it. At least we got, you know, the resolution to the first, I'll say, chapter of that story.
I guess.
But yeah, what are they gonna change, and how are they gonna make it fit within the new 52? I suppose I mean, when
I don't know, because he has to restart the whole thing all over again. Well, I guess he kind of is. He has shown up in other books and is kind of.
yeah.
It's not. It's not as official as what they made it pre. Is what my guess is going to be.
hmm
Not to get off on this for very long, but I would assume that the new Batman Incorporated isn't going to be quite as advertised as what the pre-launch.
You mean like he'll take it underground, so to speak?
More so, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm looking for. I'll be getting it. So because I'm really curious where they're going to go with it.
I don't know if I'm going to be getting. I mean, it'll be the second Batman title I don't get if I don't get it. I don't
really.
I'm humming Han. I wasn't happy with how Leviathan ended out, so
Oh,
I don't know.
maybe we should talk about that sometime.
Yeah.
So what about GI Combat? Any interest in that?
No.
You know,
There's some backup stories that are going to be in that I'd be interested in. Because as a kid, I used to read quite a bit of weird war tales and whatnot.
hmm
I kind of like those because they had less to do with war and they had to do with some of their weird thing going on. And it kind of sounds like some of the back stories in the back of GI Comic, because they're going to do backup stories in the back or rotating stories. I can't remember which it is. Of like Unknown Soldier, written by Justin Gray and Jay Fowley. I like them, and I think that there's going to be some Haunted Tank back there.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because like you just mentioned about reading stuff when you were a kid, Haunted Tank was always one of my favorites that I read. So I would be mildly interested in this title for that, but I honestly I don't think I'm going to pick it up.
Yeah, well, I know I won't.
What about Ravagers?
Yes, I'm going to check that out.
Oh yeah, I have no interest.
Well, I want to know who the lineup is. I mean, that's the first thing.
Oh sure.
Who's the lineup? When they call it the Ravagers, does that mean that Rose is going to be in it? From rap. I mean, that interests me in picking up. I don't know the creators really all that well. What I can remember off the top of my head of Churchill's artwork, it's fine. So there's no turnoff there as far as that goes. So I may pick it up. I'm curious to see who's in it. But then again, I may pick it up and drop Teen Titans. So.
Oh really?
Yeah. So we can have all kinds of conversations.
All right. Yeah, like you said, well, my initial reaction is I don't think I'll be picking this up, but yeah, it does depend on, who's in it, what the artist. I'm not all that familiar with Churchill's work.
He's done some Justice League stuff.
Oh, okay.
Here recently.
Anyway, so we'll see about that. What about Dial H?
The how they describe it makes me interested in picking up the check to see how it's really going to be.
Yep, me too.
Taking the cult classic concept, about how the psychological effects of every man who accidentally gains the powers from hero. So I'll pick it up initially. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Just to see how it gets delivered.
And at first, actually, my first reaction was, yeah, probably not. But then I read the interview with the writer, and he's so excited about it, and he's talking what the things he's talking about made me think, oh, maybe I'll pick up the first couple issues just to see.
Yeah.
So I really like it. We talked about Rob Liefeld's enthusiasm earlier. I really like it when the creators are out there promoting their work and doing so in a way that makes the fans feel excited for it.
Right, for sure.
So, maybe I'm an easy sell, but when they do that, and I'm already inclined to the idea anyway, like I like Dial H, I always like that idea. Now I'm probably like I said, I'm gonna pick it up just to see. Whereas before I was like, probably not. So I really appreciate that they're doing that, and I don't mind spending my money because they're comics. I love comics. So
yeah.
All right. So here are the doozies that I think out of all of these, I'm looking forward to the most in a couple different ways, but Earth 2 and World's Finest.
Yep. I'll definitely be picking both of those up.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's got people in it that characters in it that I like. I've always liked.
Hmm.
So yeah, I'm the World's Finest. That worries me a little. I because Paul Levitz wrote the first thing that bums me out, and I'll get past it, I'm sure, is that Helena is Helena Wayne as opposed to my Helena.
Do you remember? I think maybe it was even the last podcast. Maybe it was the one before. I don't remember, but we were discussing whether or not. No, it wasn't. I'm sorry, it wasn't on any podcast. Just you and I talking one day. We were discussing whether or not the Huntress in the current Huntress miniseries was from Earth 2, and I was like, nah, there's nothing in there that's really going to point to that or has pointed to that, and yeah, in fact, yes, she is from Earth 2.
So as long as she stays the way she is in the miniseries, I'll have a harder edge. I'll be great. My worry is that Levitz will slide her and Power Girl more towards the original Earth 2 versions, who come from, I don't know, more of an innocent in some ways kind of a thing. So they don't have quite the hard edge to them. And
yeah, I hope he doesn't do that.
If it gets soft, I'm going to be very disappointed and not get the comic.
Because I have been really enjoying his work on Paul Levitz's work on that Huntress miniseries.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm excited about it. Don't get me wrong, because I like those characters. So I'm all stoked for that, and I think it'll be, it could be a lot of fun. Like I said, I just hope that he it doesn't. I don't know. I'm still a bit worried about the fact if she's away and that whole what kind of complications that can create with the whole.
Right. So
I've never been that excited over the whole, Batman and Catwoman had a kid. I just haven't.
So yeah, So yeah, slide into talking about Earth 2. What does that mean exactly? We really we're talking about the JSA,
right?
And because who knows what Earth 2 really means now?
Yeah.
Because the Earth 2 that we're familiar with, from pre 1985.
Sure.
That was a specific thing. We knew what Earth 2 was. It was well defined over the years.
Yep.
But now, who knows what that really is?
Right.
So I'm curious what that means. Are they the World War II hero? Is it going to be set in that time frame?
Yeah, all Golden Age. Yeah, kind of.
I mean, not it won't. I'm sure it won't be set in the World War II time frame because we have Helena and Karen, being.
But is it all Golden Age heroes? Is it all a bunch of heroes that have gray side beards and?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I'm really interested in what that all means exactly. But we have James Robinson writing it, which he's not exactly done well, I'll say, in the superhero books that he's been on. Most recently Justice League of America. So I'm a little leery about that. But Nicola Scott is on art, right?
Yeah, she'll rock it. Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's gonna look good.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, like I said, those are the two that I'm most looking forward to.
Yeah.
So there you go. All right, Travis, shall we get into the Longbox Review 2011 Best of Awards, or whatever it is I'm going to call this thing?
My favorites. That's
yeah. That's exactly what this is. This is okay. So here is the ground rules for everybody to know. Basically, anything that was released from January to December 2011 is fair game. And I'm talking about the release date, not the cover dates. And it's my personal best of in these categories, and Travis's personal best of in those categories. And to make it interesting, Travis and I have not discussed these with each other before we started recording. So it'll be interesting to see what Travis has come up with, and hopefully he'll be interested in what I have come up with in these categories. And also to mention before we get right into it, just happened to come out this way because I threw the categories together, and we have 11 categories for 2011. Aww.
How about that?
Yeah. Okay. Boy, Travis, some of these were kind of hard as I was going through these.
Some of them are ridiculous to try and pick up, in my opinion. To honestly pick a best of. my list starts out at 15 or so, and then I'm just kind of like, oh,
Well, and I guess to be fair, there will be a few of these categories where I will talk about my honorable mentions
oh, okay.
because I can't just pick one. So, but there's only a few. All right, shall we get to it?
Sure.
All right, I'll read the category and then you go ahead and start.
Okay.
Well, and these are well, they're sort of a particular order, but it's not like okay, we are counting down to what I think is the most important, the best ongoing series of 2011. So that'd be the last one. So all the rest are just kind of interspersed here with no real importance to the numbering. So, but number one is best comics publication.
I'm gonna go with Comic Book Resource,
Ooh.
CBR.
Mm-hmm. Very
They're
good.
they're my favorite. Them and their everything that falls under their branch of stuff. Um, I, I like the way the site is put up. I like the information they give out, and they give it out in a way that I feel like I'm in enough control of what I'm seeing that if I choose not to overexpose myself to a title that I'd like to have a little bit of surprise to and whatnot, that I
Oh yeah.
that I can, because I know that sometimes you can read enough of the interviews or reviews or previews and whatnot to, for me anyway, to wreck some comics, to take some of the surprise and magic out of a book and whatnot, and maybe it's just that I'm most familiar with that one. I do go to some of the other sites and whatnot, but either I can't figure out where things are hidden at, or I inevitably end up reading stuff I didn't want to read. So it's the site I like best.
Yeah, and actually that I struggle with this because CBR was one of my top things as well, but I did, and for all the same reasons that you mentioned. When I'm looking for specific information about something, whether it's just announced or if I knew about it but I didn't have the details and I wanted to find out more, I go to CBR. That's my first stop. But the best comics publication that I chose was Bleeding Cool.
Really?
Yeah. Just because I like, not that I don't like to be spoiled on things as far as, plot lines or reveals in comics, but I do appreciate that Bleeding Cool gives you, some insider information, some well advanced suppositions that oftentimes turn out to be true before the companies have a chance to announce them. I just find that interesting, and I appreciate the work that the guy
Rich Johnson.
Thank you. Boy, I was gonna be embarrassed there. That he he's able to put together.
Uh-huh. So, I go back and forth on it.
Yeah, there are times where maybe it crosses the line or whatnot, but there's just a lot of really just interesting comic book related information on the site. So
yeah, it's one of those things I like to know the dirt, but at the same time I don't like to know the dirt.
Sure.
Sometimes I think it stirs stuff that doesn't need to be stirred.
Oh yeah. But in the positive, in the more positive sense, just the information.
Oh sure.
And knowing, like I said, knowing the behind the scenes kind of stuff, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so there you go. It's interesting that we both chose online sites for this category.
Wait, there are paper productions that. I mean.
Ooh.
Well, no, you know me. I'm all for paper, not digital. I just didn't really realize there really was much in the way of anything out there that really provided ongoing current information.
Well, that's just it. It's by the time they go to print, and that's why most of these places, most of the print publications that we've had in the past have gone away. Is that the internet came along and exploded, and everybody wanted their information now, and so nobody wants to buy some news that happened 3, 4 or more weeks ago.
Right.
So it's just it's interesting to me because you and I think we're not on board 100% on this digital comic thing, and yet we choose a digital comics publication medium
Sure.
To
Well,
supplement that.
that's just information, though.
Yeah, yeah.
That's not art. There's a difference.
Okay. All right. Number 2, best single issue.
Wow. Best single issue of 2011.
Oh, so I want to explain this one. So that could be an issue of an ongoing series. It could be a one-shot comic, or it could even be a graphic novel. That was kind of the definition that I gave Travis.
A graphic novel, but not a trade paperback.
No, I don't think that. Do you disagree with that? I don't think that counts. That's
I don't think it does either. I was just asking
Yeah.
because I mean other things come to mind when I have an answer, but other things come to mind. Right?
Okay.
That if it was a trade was involved, the actual title came out the year before, but the trade was released in 2011. It's an awesome title also. So anyway, I'm going to go with Batgirl number 24, the last issue.
Yes. I almost chose that one.
I just couldn't think of. Well, that's the first thing that came to mind as far as issues that will probably stay with me a long time, just because of the impact, the way it was delivered, the fabulous goodbye song that Brian Q. Miller gave us for them closing down that title. I just think it was excellent. I've never seen a book end as well as that book did. And so I think it'll stick with me for a long time. So that's why I'm calling it the best of.
Yeah, like I said, I almost chose that one as well for the very same reasons. And we've talked about this before about how much we love Brian Q. Miller's Batgirl anyway. So
Yep.
yeah, I actually went back to that title for a lot of these categories for various reasons. So it popped up in my mind as I was going through this process. And it's funny you mentioned that, because the one I'm going to choose is somewhat related in a sense. And so I'll just spit it out here. So my favorite best single issue was the all-new Batman, Brave and the Bold, number 13, which was the cover says "Calling All Robins," and this is the one where you have from Dick Grayson on down to Damian Wayne and everybody in between. Oh, and I guess that's sort of, when I said that, from Dick Grayson, Damian Wayne, that's sort of chronologically, but there's the Robin from the Dark Knight universe in there as well, but she was published before Damian. So anyway, I when I saw that comic solicited several months ago, I because I don't collect Batman the Brave and the Bold. I just pick up a few issues here and there. But I saw that cover with all the Robins on there, and you know how much I love that character in general. So I'm like, well, duh, I got to buy that.
Right.
So I picked it up, and not only was it just neat to see all the Robins in there in the Batman and Brave and the Bold animated series universe, but it was actually a pretty damn good story. The Robins, and I posted this on the Long Box Review blog. So if anybody wants to go read that, because I did basically a synopsis of the thing, because I was so pleased with that issue, and then talked about it as well. But the Robins all get collected together via the Phantom Stranger to help out Batman, and they all have it's all pointed out that they all have their strengths as Robins. They're not all they're not cookie cutter characters at all. And so it was just a great issue, highlighting and spotlighting all these Robins, just the Robin character in general that I love, especially Dick Grayson in there as Nightwing. Their relationship that they show between him and Batman is just awesome. And then at the very end, this is why I mentioned because you mentioned Batgirl. At the very end, it was like Travis, your favorite dessert, topped with even more of your favorite dessert, topped with whipped cream and a cherry, and whatever it is you like, put in your favorite dessert metaphor here. Because at the very end, Madame Xanadu shows up in this issue and points out to the Phantom Stranger, well, if the Robins wasn't able to deal with it, then we have the Batgirls, and they show
seriously
all of the Batgirls.
That's cool,
including Stephanie Brown.
Nice.
which is funny because she was also one of the female Robins, and so
Right,
she's in the comic twice.
right.
So I thought that was really cool.
I want to read that comic.
Oh, you should, if you can, you should pick it up
I'll find it.
and read it, or you can always borrow mine. But it's just it's a lovely little bit of comic art.
Huh.
So that's why I chose that one. Okay, next category, and I had trouble with this one a little bit. Best color artist.
Now, see, for me, it was easy. It's Dave Stewart. Dave Stewart. He does the color. He does the color work for Batwoman. Well, he does the cover work for tons of stuff. I think he is part of what makes J.H. Williams' art so magical. Is his colors. He does color work for Hellboy, some of the Hellboy stuff. He does color work for just tons and tons of things, and he has a different style depending on whose work he's working on and what it's being portrayed. To me, that he's not just flattening a page and then putting yellow down and putting red down and putting whatever down. I mean, he just adds so much to it and changes that depending on what he's working on. To me, that just seems like that makes him a fabulous colorist. I really think he's a large portion, like I said, as to why J.H. Williams' art's so gorgeous, and we'll get into. J.H. Williams on my list later on too. So
yeah, me too.
So yeah, to me it's just it was easy. I think colorist, that's the first colorist that comes to mind. I could name a few other colorists, but he just adds so much to it, I think.
Well, so the reason I had trouble is because we reviewed all those New 52 number ones, and I remember us talking about the color work on many of them. The problem is I couldn't remember which ones specifically we talked about, with a few exceptions. And then of course there's all the stuff that I read in general. And I have to admit I totally forgot about Dave Stewart's work on Batwoman.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. He should have been on my short list, and I just completely forgot about it. So what I did instead is I picked Jessica Collin, the color artist on Voodoo.
Oh yeah.
Because the issues with that title aside, one of the things I was extremely impressed with was the art. Just the craftsmanship of Sammy Basri's pencils and inks, but Jessica Collins' color work on that book, I think, really puts that book over the top as far as the art is concerned.
Right. Okay.
Just the different color palettes depending on the particular scene, the depth. I really think that Collin has a lot to do with how well the Sammy Basri art comes across, because the colors provide a sense of depth. The lighting effects in it is just so good, and the color work is just I don't know. I don't think I can adequately explain how well it is, because I don't have really a good frame of reference other than I like it, and I like the way. This is going to sound really bad and really wishy-washy. I just like the way it makes me feel. When I'm reading it, I feel good about reading that book for the art alone. And I'm more of a writing guy. I prefer story and character over the art in general. So for a book to speak to me as this book does, just from the art standpoint, that says a lot to me. So that's why I chose her on that book. I did have an honorable mention, though, I wanted to point out, was Randy Mayer or Mayor, I don't know how that's pronounced, but he did some work on Green Lantern in 2011 that I thought was just wonderful. Just there's a lot of the different colored lantern cores involved in the stories, and and I think I mentioned this before, or I posted on the blog. For a Green Lantern book, where you have all these different colors, it's really important that all the colors are right. You don't want to have a Green Lantern shooting out a yellow beam, for instance. Just that's one simple example. But the work that Randy did on that book was, I thought, pretty good. really not pretty good. It was really good. He did a
Uh,
really good job at maintaining all of the different colors and making the book just look good in general. So, all right, shall we move on?
sure.
Okay, best limited series. And this could be anything that either started or stopped within that 12-month time frame. What did you choose, Travis?
This is hard because there's I mean, you start looking. There's a lot of. I mean, a lot of it. All of this stuff, obviously. There's just a lot of stuff out there and whatnot. Um, I'm going to pick Infinite Vacation.
Ooh.
By it's put out by Image Comics. Um, Written by Nick Spencer and art by Christian Ward. Um, the only thing I fault it is it's being plagued with not being able to come out in a regular on a regular schedule. And I'm not sure exactly why that is, but I just love this comic. It started out fun and just being kind of whimsical in the story and whatnot, and midway through it has become incredibly sinister and actually pretty frightening. And I've loved the ride so far. There are 2 more issues left to be released, and I love the artwork. It's quirky. It's got a kind of a watercolor flavor to it and whatnot. I just enjoyed the heck out of it. The concept of all these infinite worlds, and if you're tired of your life, you can purchase a different life. You basically have the equivalent of an iPhone app, and you can look on this app and look at other lives that are there and go, ooh, here's a place where Travis is a surf bum and he spends all day just surfing. That sounds like great, living in great weather and surfing all day, and you can pay X amount of money and that's your life. And if you get tired of that life, you can go on and be the president, because in some infinite world you're the president, and in some infinite world you're this, and some infinite world you're that. Well, they've found a glitch in the whole system and how it works, and the people who are running the Infinite Vacation, who are making all this money, want to make sure they cover that up, and the story leads into the process of them covering up, and this one particular character and all of his other selves trying to figure out how to survive it, because they've decided that the best way to fix their problem is to kill off this main character and all of his infinite characters. So it's an interesting story. I just love it to pieces, and the way it's delivered is great.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things about that, other than the fact that it's not coming out in a timely manner.
Yeah,
And I missed it when it came out. I knew of it coming out. I'm like, ooh, I should check that out, and then I forgot about it. And my comic shop, didn't have it, and I asked about it, and I never, one of the few times my comic shop has kind of let me down. I asked if they could get me, whatever issues had come out at that point, which was maybe one, or it was maybe 2, but obviously definitely 1 was out, and they never got back to me on it. So
yeah.
So I missed out, and so I've been waiting. I've been hoping and waiting for a trade to come out of that. So
It'll be a great trade, I think.
Yeah. So I actually have one and another honorable mention, but the one I chose, and it's kind of a cheat because most of the issues came out in 2010, but it's Incognito: Bad Influences. And this was it's a book put out by Marvel, the Icon imprint, but it's by Ed Brubaker and drawn by Sean Phillips. And it was just so I don't know if you're familiar with the Incognito universe, so to speak,
Yeah.
Travis.
I haven't read any of the books yet. Those are on my list of things to pick up.
Oh yeah, you definitely need to read the first trade at least.
Yeah.
That first story was awesome. But this is another story in that universe. It was just fun, so much fun to read. The character, the world that they built for this. I love stories. I love stories where the focus is on the bad guys, and not just them doing bad things, but having moral dilemmas, and they're changing their outlook, or they're being convinced to change, or the struggle that they have. I mean, it's a perfect storytelling opportunity to have a former villain character be either coerced, as this character Zach Overkill um, was at first, to sliding into that, that the role of hero to some degree. So it was just a wonderful return of that particular universe, and I really enjoyed it. So, and like I said before, a lot of these I chose them because how I felt about them.
Right.
Was this not necessarily because it was the pinnacle of storytelling or the pinnacle of art, but when I was reading it, how did I feel about this book? And this one was one of the out of all the limited series I read, this was one of the ones at the top, so I chose that one. The honorable mention that I have here was the Flashpoint Batman 3-issue limited series, which I think we talked about this before, was the best of all of the tie-ins of Flashpoint.
That's my pick for the next one.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go right into that. The best event.
There's no such thing. That's my first answer. You pick this, then I'm like, oh God, event books. There's no such thing as a good event book. Oh, they're all awful.
So wrong. You are so
wrong. No, I am not. No, I'm not. They do nothing for the companies or their products. They just make a mess of stuff. They're never any good. At any rate.
Yeah, we don't want to go into that tangent.
You're right. Having to pick something, because I thought, well, I had to pick something. I really did, though, enjoy the Flashpoint Batman Night of Vengeance for a story in and of itself. Mm-hmm. Not having anything really to do with the Flashpoint stuff itself. It's basically an alternate Batman story, mm-hmm. is what it is. The rest of the Flashpoint stuff doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of the things. As far as a whole, I didn't think.
That's true. Yeah, it didn't really tie into the whole Flashpoint event.
You did. I mean, you needed the Flashpoint thing for some of the delivery at the end.
Oh, sure.
The whole "can we fix it or not fix it" thing. Mm-hmm. But I thought that was great. I thought it was a great story. It definitely, it was 3 issues, mm-hmm. I think. By issue 2, I'm closing that going, what the F? There's some big surprises in there for me anyway, to make me go, what?
Oh, go ahead. It's been long enough, Travis. Go ahead.
Well, the fact that the Joker is Mrs. Wayne. Mm-hmm. It's Bruce's mom, and they flipped out because in Crime Alley it's Bruce that gets whacked.
Yeah.
And she's not. I mean, she's a very vicious and evil Joker.
Oh yeah.
I mean, she's not got a squirty flower and stuff like that. I mean, she gets Jameson wiped out in the thing. She's torturing kids at the end of it. I just, and Batman can't really bring himself to just put her down. Mm-hmm. I mean, you get the impression that he's been dealing with her this whole time, but won't, because it's his wife, mm-hmm. won't finish the job, won't put her down like he seems to put anybody, the other criminals, busts them up, kills them, they talk. I mean, he kills Killer Croc. In the first issue, he drives like a machete or something through Killer Croc's head. Mm-hmm. So he has no problem with killing villains, this version of Batman, but he won't put down this, the Joker, because it's his wife. And she does lots of nasty, evil stuff. I mean, she's ever been as bad as the other ones. It was a great story.
Yeah. You know what? They could have made that a 6-issue limited series, and I would have bought it.
Oh, heck yeah. By itself with no Flashpoint stuff.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, that would have been a good addition.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I took this category to I'm glad you pointed that out. Chose that one. It's related to Flashpoint, but not really the event itself. But I did choose a more quote unquote event book, and that was Brightest Day. I know there's a lot of people out there that just simply did not like Brightest Day, but I thought it was awesome. all all the various characters they're focusing on, and the stories coming out of Blackest Night. It was just and the artwork on most of the stuff, because there were multiple artists on here as well as multiple writers for that story. And that's where you get a lot of the Aquaman stuff that I was excited about. I even like the Firestorm stuff. It's just there's all this, I just keep saying all this stuff in this book that was, again, when I was reading, I was like, this is such a joy to read. And I really, the ending, I have to admit, they kind of fell down there just a little bit. But it was still, the build up to that was I thought was just a delightful read. So, and Dove featured very prominently.
Yeah, that's the only reason why. Let's get to the real reason.
No.
Oh,
It was Dove and Aquaman that was just the best parts of that series.
Aquaman.
Hey, Aquaman is cool. He's
Oh,
cool.
Okay.
So anyway, that was my best event, brightest day. All right. Next on the list, best artist, and now that is we kind of define that as the person who does the pencils, does the inks, not necessarily the colors, but they could just overall doing the art for the book. When you look at the credits in a book, it says artist or something along those lines, and we don't have multiple names except as I said, perhaps other than the colorist. So that's best artist. Travis, who did you choose for that?
J.H. Williams III.
Yeah, that was my choice as well.
I mean, his stuff on Batwoman is just incredible on so many levels. It just amazes me. It makes the whole page interesting. You don't look at it and go, "Oh, okay, this is a 9-panel page, or this is a 6-panel page, or whatever." It's just this incredible piece of work that is challenging to the eye, but not challenging in a way that's distracting, in my opinion. But it makes the whole thing really interesting. And there's all this information there to take on. I just think that's incredible. I don't see how he does it, quite frankly. I'm really curious, looking forward to what the level of work he's doing when he gets into the next arc that he's doing the artwork for, if he's given himself enough advance time to get done. And just to touch more on the Batman, the Batwoman title, what I think is really interesting is there's like 3 different versions of art going on in the title, it seems to me, and some of it's him and some of it's Dave Stewart, the colorist, on it that create that. There seems to be a style of art when Batwoman's on the page.
Yeah.
And there seems to be a style of art that's a little different when Kate Kane is on the page.
Mm-hmm.
The way her porcelain skin is and the way she's portrayed in opposed to that one. And then there's an art that's closer to what I want to call it his work that he did on Desolation Jones for Wildstorm comic. When Agent Chase
Mm-hmm.
is on the page, and when Bones is on the page, it's a grittier. It's got a different texture to it. And I think it's fascinating is he can somehow pulls off both of those looks on the same page at the same time. Because there's one point where in one of the issues a while ago, Batwoman's pulling herself out of the water, and Agent Chase is there and confronting her. And both those styles are on the page at the same time, and they work, which to me just boggles my mind that you could have those 2 characters have a different physical feel to them and be on the same page and it still work.
Yeah, exactly.
And that just is incredible to me and so cool. I mean, and there are a ton of other artists out there that I really, really like, and I think do fabulous jobs. I think their work is really interesting. As honorable mentions, I can name off people like Fraser Irving, who did work on on Zombie. He did work on some of the different Batman titles along the way,
Mm-hmm.
and all of that different stuff was just in my opinion, great. Anything that he steps onto, to me, I see he's doing a work on something. I'm going to pick it up and then give a thought as to what the story is or whatever. Just because visually he's one of those people that's really interesting to me.
Okay, so Travis, this is the first category where we have agreed completely, even to the honorable mention.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So J.H. Williams III for me as well for best artist, for exactly the things you mentioned. That was all I was going to say about it. I particularly, the page layout, that's cool. But really what I like is the different art styles for the different um, uh, subplots going on
Right.
in the book. It just somehow it gels very well, and it just visually it's just a stunning piece of work.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and yeah, Fraser Irving on Zombie, and like you said, the Batman books. Yeah, that guy, I was just impressed as hell with his work. And maybe a second honorable mention, Terry Moore, just because I've just finished reading Echo. That guy can draw very well. It's black and white stuff, but his line work and his storytelling techniques, and it's just incredible stuff. So okay, so Travis, here's the next one, best cover. This is the one I spent the most time on.
This was a nightmare. Holy cows. I mean, there are just a ton of.
Oh yeah, how many comics came out in 2011?
Yeah.
And I'm just talking about the ones that you and I, read.
Actually read as opposed to.
Yeah, and to go back, I mean, the last maybe 2 or 3 months, I can probably remember anything that jumped out at me, but to go back further than that, oh man.
Yeah.
That was interesting. I actually spent a lot of time at my blog going back at the pull list reviews, and fortunately, I had, for the most part, put nearly every cover for every issue that I reviewed, so that helped. But yeah, that was that, and not only that, but just coming up with choosing, because there's a lot of good covers out there, a lot of good cover art. But what did you choose for the best cover?
I chose, and this is for me, I chose House of Mystery number 42. It's the final issue of House of Mystery, and the reason I chose it, just to describe the cover, because not many people actually will have this in front of them. It is a beer mug set on a table, and it's got the House of Mystery inside the mug, and there's a piece of paper underneath that says "Three for the Road," which is the title of the final issue of House of Mystery. And for me, I like Andrew's covers anyway. His covers are just fascinating as these rich paintings and he's did the cover work for House of Mystery for a lot of years. But it just, because the concept of the basics of the story is you show up at the House of Mystery, you tell a story, and that's how you pay for your drinks and whatnot. And for it to be the final issue and that to be the picture, I just think it captured the essence of the entire run of the book in that cover. And that's why I chose it. There are lots of other covers out there that are interesting or eye-catching or that sort of thing that I could probably name off too. But I like that one the most just because of the sentimental value of what it adds to the title as a whole, and describes it. And I think it does a really good job of that, of being the ending of here it is. This is what the book has been. And I really like that for that. So that's why I picked that one.
Yeah, that's a good cover. I didn't read that series, but yeah, the cover work on that, every time I was looking through previews or advanced solicitations elsewhere, and I saw the House of Mystery stuff, I was like, yeah, that's good work.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. That's a good one. I chose, and so there's a lot out of all the categories, Travis, I had several in mind on this, but and I'll throw them out there in just a second. But what I did choose was Daredevil #1 by Paulo Rivera.
Oh yeah, that was on my short list.
Yeah, that one where Daredevil. So this is the relaunch of Daredevil as written by Mark Waid. And you have Daredevil on the cover there in, in his red uniform, jumping, or I guess swinging sort of at you, with a logo above him. But what really, I mean, and that's a cool enough image in itself. But it's really the background and the surrounding area on the cover that really put it over the top for me, because you basically you're seeing what Daredevil, I guess, sees, and I put that in quotes, via his radar, not just his radar sense, but his his hearing as well, because you have the outlines of things. There's birds flapping in front of him, but everything is constructed via the onomatopoeia, the sounds that they make to him,
Right.
or just like the outline of things. And it was just a really cool, different way to present this character again after that abysmal uh, Dark Daredevil story whose title I can't remember now. Um, but where he was possessed and all this stuff.
Right. Right.
So it was just great to see that image. I mean, it was just like you see that image on the shelf. It's like, oh my God, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
And
Well,
it made you want to pick it up.
yeah, my daughter at the time, she's 10, not really reads much in the way of comics, and she really hadn't started reading. She reads a few comics right now, but hadn't really been reading comics and whatnot. She saw the cover to that, and she was just taken with it. The fact that it was all these, words and sound effects that are in the background that make up the background. I mean, she just, it grabbed her even. So yeah, it's definitely a great cover.
And so, honorable mention, not really anything in particular. I mean, I did choose a particular one, but I did want to mention the covers by Yuko Shimizu, for the title Unwritten. You could pick pretty much any of the covers that this artist has done through the 3-year run of that title, and they're just wonderful. Kind of like you mentioned about Andrews on House of Mystery.
Yeah.
Shimizu's art is it's phenomenal on the covers. I can't explain any other way. The one I did choose as an honorable mention, though, is there's a white rabbit on the cover, and there's this. You'd have to read the series to know, but there's this character who, he's a talking rabbit, and you think, oh, how cute and whatnot. But no, this is a foul-mouthed, cynical and full of hatred character. Anyway, it was a delightful story, but but just the covers that Shimizu does, just awesome. They make me want to pick that book up, even if I wasn't. There were some others though. I just wanted to mention real quick. Do you remember the Zatanna series with the Adam Hughes covers?
Yes.
I mean, those are delightful to look at in general, because Adam Hughes is he's a good
Right.
cover artist. But
Right.
the last issue of Zatanna, where she's just standing there on stage, and it's just her and a red curtain in the background, and her head is bowed. It's like, this is the end of my show. It's the end of the title. I thought that was just a really nice way to, a cover image to end the series. That was good. Batgirl 21 by Dustin Nguyen. Where I think that's the one where she's on the clock. Or no, not the clock. There's the stained glass in the background.
Oh, right.
That's just a wonderfully colored. Mostly, that's why I chose that one. But Fables 107, that was the issue that was drawn by Terry Moore. But that cover, it's mostly a dark cover. But there's a face, an image of a face on there that's mostly in shadows, but it's just really striking. And there's a bunch of others, but I could go on. But it's just like I said, this one I had a really hard time narrowing it down, and I almost chose something else other than Daredevil. But once I saw that, as I said, I was looking through all the pull list reviews I did. Once I got to that one, I'm like, oh yeah, that's got to be the one. So, but yeah, that was a hard one. All right. 7 down. We got a few more to go. Let's see here. Next in line, Best Writer.
Oh yeah. I'm going to go with Scott Snyder.
Mm,
Between his work on the Detective comics right before they did the relaunch, and now with Batman and Swamp Thing, I just think the guy is firing on all cylinders. Um, the stuff he did on the Detective, the Skeleton Key storyline and whatnot was just absolutely fabulous. Um, and I really like his approach to Batman. Now that he's actually writing Batman as opposed to Dick. I like his approach on Bruce also, and the Swamp Thing title I think is just really cool. Um, so with as many successful, for me, as many successful titles as he has going right now, um, he's the person I think is the best writer of 2011.
okay. Well, I will agree that I am now a Snyder convert. In that Batman, as you said, the new Batman anyway. That I'm really enjoying that story, and the Swamp Thing story is a delightful read too. But and this was another hard one. I mentioned it just a little bit ago. I'm more of a storytelling focused comic fan. So
Uh-huh.
the writer is many times more important to me than the artist on a book. So I had a hard time with this because there's so many good writers doing such good work. Mark Waid on Daredevil recently. I've always enjoyed Brian Michael Bendis's work on, especially the new Avengers title. Um, Brian Q. Miller on Batgirl. That was
Yeah,
such a good read.
yeah.
Anything by Grant Morrison, I almost always enjoy his work. But I did go with, and I'll explain why. I went with Jeff Johns as best writer for 2011. And I did that because, I've come back to that whole, how did this make me feel thing. I looked at the works that all of those writers that I just mentioned, and there's a lot of other writers as well whose work I enjoy. Those are just, the ones that came to mind immediately. But I chose Johns because he put out, at least 3 books in 2011, either the beginning of or through to the end, that I've just enjoyed the hell out of. He worked on Brightest Day, the new Justice League series. I'm just having a ball with. And his new Aquaman title as well. That's it's just a fun read. And I part of this is also it's a comment on, I have a hard time delineating between, okay, this is the stuff they did in this year, as opposed to how I feel about this writer in general. Like Mark Waid. He has put out so much stuff over the years that I think is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
But I tried, and John's too. There's stuff, and I mentioned this too in my recent or I don't know if I've actually posted that yet. Yes, I have. The 30-day comic book challenge I'm doing on the blog.
Uh-huh.
I chose Jeff Johns as my favorite writer, and I outlined all the stuff that he did, the JSA work he did, the stuff on Green Lantern alone, is really good. The Blackest Night stuff, all that stuff. I just think he's a good writer. But it's for the stuff that he did in 2011 that put him over the top of these other great writers that I read, month in and month out.
Mhm.
So that's my choice. Okay, now we get to uh, this is kind of a when I was putting this list together, Travis. This is just kind of I for some reason I thought, oh, this will be an possibly interesting category, just because it's so wide open. But it is best wow moment.
That's easy. The relaunch.
The relaunch. That's my
That
yep.
relaunch is got to be the biggest thing, and it will be. It will be. It will be 10 years from now. I bet, unless they do a bunch more of them, which God, I hope they don't. I just, yeah. What else? What else compares? I don't see what else is. I don't anything that happened in any one title or whatever.
Yeah.
I think it's
So
all.
so you can't. If we could put aside the DC new relaunch, you can't think of anything. Either comics news wise or in a particular issue where it was like, holy cats, what the heck just happened there?
That. Oh.
Maybe the reveal of the Joker in the Flashpoint Batman.
Well, that was definitely. I mean, that was definitely a. Yeah. I mean, that was a definite wow moment, but doesn't compare to the
Oh yeah.
to the to the relaunch. Um.
Well, I mean we devoted 4 very long podcasts to that whole event. So just on the number ones. Actually, no, we did 5 because we started with looking at the end of
Right.
Flashpoint and then the new Justice League. So
Right.
did
But the events themselves, I don't think they revealed anything that was that shocking for any of the, I mean, Marvel or DC.
hmm
Um, of course, my wheelhouse is DC, not Marvel, but I don't know. I'm not aware of any. I mean,
Oh no.
um, yeah, I really, I think that that's the the DC relaunch has got to be because it affected everything then.
hmm And not just DC.
Right.
I mean, they until just recently, DC has had the number one in sales. Uh,
Yeah, sure.
yeah, yeah. So it's affecting Marvel. Marvel's got to be looking at how they can reclaim their top spots
Sure.
in the industry. And I've been hearing rumors about changes, not just they canceled a bunch of stuff, and they're talking about the new the X-Men versus Avengers event that's coming. There's going to be some change ups there for them to, like I say, reclaim the top spots in the industry.
Yeah.
But yeah, and sales were up in general, and that wasn't just for DC, but sales were up in general at comic shops all over
Right.
the country. I know specifically at the comic book shop in Spokane where I go, they had a tremendous increase
Uh-huh.
of not just people buying books, like you and I, hardcore comics fans just buying stuff in month out, but they had new people coming in because they heard about the stuff. I have a coworker who has no interest in comics whatsoever, and he went out and bought Justice League #1 because he thought it might have some sort of monetary value in the
Oh,
future.
good God.
Yeah, I did educate him on that. I hope, but
Did he at least buy the first printing?
yes, yeah, he did.
That's good, at least.
Yeah, but yeah, it's just amazing what
Yeah.
that announcement and then the subsequent titles that have come out, what that's done.
Yeah.
Long-term effects, of course, remain to be seen, but it was definitely a wow moment, that's for sure.
Well, what else would you have picked?
Oh, I wouldn't.
Okay.
Like I said, I may have if the DC new hadn't have happened, I may have chosen that Batman
Uh,
Flashpoint thing, that reveal. That's the first thing that popped in my head, just like because like we said before, both of us are like, holy crap.
yeah, yeah.
So, all right, I think enough said about that. Let's move on to the last two. Best penciler.
Yeah, if our definition of best penciler is somebody who just does the pencil work and doesn't finish their work, I'm hard pressed. I started going back and looking at all the artists that I could think of off the top of my head and whatnot that I've enjoyed, and most of them either finish their own work or they work digitally. So obviously there really isn't a. I don't know that there is there an inker when you work digitally. I don't know.
Uh,
But so I don't know. I mean, the person I want to put there it would be could easily be J.H. Williams.
mm,
I'm gonna put I'm gonna put Cliff Chang in there.
ooh, yeah.
His work on Wonder Woman and some of the other stuff he's done. I've just enjoyed the heck out of everything he's done for quite some time. I really like how he's doing the Wonder Woman
Yeah, definitely.
title and whatnot. Everything about it. He's got a unique style. With and nothing's over the top except for maybe his axes that he draws. But I mean, body proportions and whatnot. I just enjoy the heck out of the fact is that for that, and I think that's who I'm going to put in there.
Hmm. Yeah, I definitely like his Wonder Woman. That's probably one of the best renditions of Wonder Woman I've seen in a very long time. Let's see. I had a hard time with this one too.
Yeah, that was tough.
And in fact, I had one artist in particular as my choice, and then just a few days ago I reversed that and changed it to somebody else, and then this morning as I'm thinking about it again, I changed it back. So um, and it's funny because it's just because I'm reading. I finally got caught up on in preparation for today's recording. I finally got caught up on all my comics that came out in December. And I wanted to do that specifically in case there was something that I read that that wowed me in any way that may affect this list. And only one thing, and it wasn't a wow thing, it was just a reminder of how much I enjoy this person's work, and that person is Ivan Reis. And so he's doing the pencil work on Aquaman, but he did some stuff on Brightest Day as well, and it's very accessible, clean, superhero, more or less realistic type art, and that's really what I like in comic book art. I appreciate the more experimental stuff. I like different styles of art. I appreciate all that stuff, but really what I gravitate towards, is like the Neil Adams of old, George Perez, that kind of work. And Ivan Reis he's following in those footsteps. And it's just really good comic book art. But I did want to. So the other artist whose work I was going to choose as best penciler was Terry Moore. Having, like I said, I stayed up until 1:30 Friday night reading the majority of the complete Echo series, and it's just like, this guy is just phenomenal. Like I said earlier, he's just really good work. Did you have any others on there? Because I think this is a best artist and best penciler, that kind of thing. That's a big category, obviously, for comics. Goes without saying. Who else did you have on your list?
There's just, well, the people that you mentioned. I threw away my list, so I'm drawing a blank on.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to make sure I had just a definitive, this is what I'm going to answer for. There's so much stuff out there I enjoy. I mean, that's one of the things I love about comic books is because there is so many different styles, and depending on what you're reading, I'm trying to think there's just, like I said, there's just lots of stuff out there that, I'm trying to think of some specific work that some of the artists that I want to name off have done. I liked, Cafu. Is that how you say his name? I think he's working on Grifter right now, which I don't care for his work on that. So maybe I should have picked him as a penciler, because obviously the ink has something to do with that. He did the main work on the first volume of Thunder Agents last year. I really liked his work on that because it was really clean and whatnot. I enjoy Brian Hurt on Sixth Gun. For the style of work he does, for the title it's on and whatnot. It works really well. I can't name the guys because I can't pronounce their names. It's a group of Italians that work on Hellblazer. I love their work. They do most of the work, and then they take days off, and then on the months that they take off to do other work, Simon Bosley does the work on that. I love his work too. There's a lot of good stuff out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's one of those things. It's really hard, and it's even harder for me than artists than writers, I think, because for me with a comic book, there are times the story can be mediocre, and the artwork can make me enjoy the book. Just by the way it looks. Even if the story itself isn't good, I'll keep picking something up just because it looks good.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if a book is not written very well and the art is blasé, I won't keep picking it up. Now, if the writer is good, it's a good story. The art can be drawn by my kids, and I'm going to read it if it's a good story, if it can still deliver a good story to me. But art is a huge part of a comic book.
Mm-hmm.
I like all kinds of different styles. So it's really hard. This is one of those ones that was just, kind of hard for me to pinpoint
Yeah.
somebody, because I feel bad not naming off a half a dozen other people that, as far as just general artists, that I enjoy the heck out of.
Well, I imagine too. I don't know about you, Travis, but I'm probably over the next month. I'm gonna think back on this list
Oh
and go,
yeah,
why didn't I say, so and
yeah,
so,
yeah.
or
Oh, I'm
that
sure.
thing or that thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like another artist, just in general, like Francavilla,
Mm.
Francisco Francavilla. I love his stuff. I love his style, the stuff he did on the Detective Comics part that he worked on,
Yeah. That.
and I like his kind of pulpy, stuff. I'm not really collecting the Marvel stuff he's working on currently, just because I don't really have an interest in, like Black Panther and whatnot. But just looking at the covers I've seen of his stuff, I was really interested. He's got some stuff coming out this year, um, by Dark Horse that I plan on looking into, just because it's him that's doing it. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Another person I just want to mention real quick, just because his work kept popping up as I was examining my pull list reviews, was Perry Perez on Batgirl.
Oh yeah, yeah.
His work was just a delight to read. It fit the story very well. It fit the character. I just
Yeah,
enjoyed his work.
he delivers her face and her kind of
Yeah.
quirks so well,
Yeah.
so well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Definitely. Okay. Let's do our final category. Best of 2011, best ongoing series.
Yeah. For me, I decided what my litmus test was as to, okay, what falls under this. Was how often did the book fail me, or did it fail me
Oh.
across the year? Was there an issue I read and I went, oh man,
Hmm.
that irritated me, or that stank, or or whatever. And I'm going to cheat here. There's two titles. There's two titles that I cannot think of a single issue in the year that I went, oh, I didn't need that, or or whatever.
I think I can guess one of them.
Can you?
Yeah, go ahead though.
Sixth Gun
Yeah, that's the one.
and Hellblazer
Ah.
are the two titles that I cannot think of this last year of there being a single issue that fell down for me. That I didn't read it, I put it down and went, dang, that was great, or that was cool, or that added so much to this character, or that sort of stuff. There are other titles I love to death. It was the year that Secret Six ended, and I love that title to
Yeah.
death. Love
Hmm.
the characters in that. But as we got down to the end, I felt like there were some issues there that fell down from me, because I felt like Gale was already moving past them,
Hmm.
and so there were some titles, there were some issues in there that disappointed me. Not that I don't love, like I said, that's still one of my absolute favorite titles. But for me, because I didn't know how else to pick a best title. How do you pick a best title? I don't know. I mean, both Six Gun and Hellblazer met their commitment dates. They were never late. They were always released the same week every month. Month in and month out the entire year. I think that's something that shows it's a successful title, and the creators have got their stuff together, and the production is right and whatnot. So it didn't suffer from we missed a month or whatever. Actual 12 issues came out in the year. And there wasn't any issues that I read and went, whatever. So that's why I chose those. How did you go about choosing what was the best one of the year?
um, well, kind of the same way I mentioned before in some of these other categories. What was the title that overall did I feel the best about? Did it, as you say, it delivered? And like you with Secret Six, I had that last, because I came on reading it monthly towards the end of it.
Right.
And yes, it was still good, but it wasn't until I went back and read it from the previous stories from the beginning, because I went back and started reading. I went back and read the first trade, and then and so on, and absolutely fell in love with that title and Gail Simone's writing and those characters and the situations. But you're right, that last story probably wasn't, quite up to snuff as in comparison to what we'd read before.
Right.
So that's why that didn't appear on my list. So I started looking at all of the titles that, like I said, delivered, and what, however that, that I define that personally. And there were several on there, but I did choose one in particular, and it was kind of bittersweet because I chose Batgirl. And again, sort of like Secret Six, but not quite. It was not. Never mind. I'm not even going to say that because, like I said, we felt that Secret Six kind of petered off a little bit, shall we say? I don't think Batgirl petered off at all, and especially with that last issue, where Brian Q. Miller and the art team, threw in all this stuff that could have been, had it continued on, was just, this great kind of wish list, I guess, if you will, of stories that would have been awesome to read. But, I didn't choose it because of stories that might have been told. I chose it because of the stuff that I read during that year, which was, a good 6-7 months, I think, before it was canceled, to make way for the New 52. But it was just that book, that character, that writer, the art teams that were on that book, it just delivered, I think, a consistent, wonderful story.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I mean, that's definitely way up there on my list of things that are just was a great book. And then, like I said, unlike some of the other titles that got a chance to actually end themselves before the DC's relaunch, that ending for that book was just it's just great.
Oh yeah,
fabulous.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other books that I did contemplate though, one was Zombie, just because that was just a hell of a ride.
Yeah, that's my son's first pick when I asked him if he had to pick best ongoing of last year. That's what his was Zombie.
Justice League, because like I said, I think that's currently my favorite book that's coming out. Although we only got a few issues in 2011, but it was just, to me, I liked it a lot. And Daredevil, when that started coming out, so that just like, bam, here's this new take on Daredevil. It's just I've just been enjoying the hell out of. All right, that's our best of 2011 list. Travis, is there anything that you wanted to add to this list or mention? Any thoughts at all overall?
I think it was a good year for comics.
Mm-hmm.
Was for me anyway. I've really enjoyed this year. Surprisingly, enjoyed this year. I at about March, I was pretty frustrated with comics. I can remember in March last year, and the reason I can remember in March of last year being frustrated with comics is because a lot of comics I liked were starting to were getting canned. They were canceling Doom Patrol. They were canceling Rebels.
I remember you talking about that.
And I was just, damn it, they're condensing everything. Not that I dislike Batman, but they're condensing everything down to a couple freaking Batman titles, and that's all there was going to be. And I remember, we went to Emerald City Comic Con at the end of March, and it was like, we went to all the DC panels, and it's basically, what the hell, you're pulling out the diversity out of the book, and it's just going to be Superman and Batman titles. What's up with that? And the only answer we get from everybody was, Flashpoint this, Flashpoint that, wait for Flashpoint, and I left that con, enjoyed the con, but left that pretty discouraged about comics because it was just blah, 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 Flashpoint this. And my opinion on event books. So I wasn't really happy that their answer to any of our questions was event book.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, as it got closer to the event book and the event book started and it was and then the whole, DC's going to relaunch their entire universe, and I'm like, oh god, this is just gonna be so horrible, doom, and then get kind of excited about it and the apprehensive, and then the books start coming out, and as a whole, I'm happy with the books. There are, like I said, there are a few titles that I'm still bummed they got the axe, that I think were good books and they shouldn't have ever been shut down. But we've come up with some new books have come out of this thing that we wouldn't have seen. I don't think we would have seen otherwise, and they
Hmm.
wouldn't have been delivered. They wouldn't have got the attention and been delivered as well as what they have been. And so I think as a whole, despite the books that I lost out of the thing, there are some books now that are out now that I love to death. Um, some of them I didn't want to put in the this best year, even though they started in this year because they're only like 3 or 4 issues in. So I didn't really feel like saying that they were the best titles
Hmm.
of 2011 because they didn't see enough of the light of day in 2011, in my opinion, to warrant that. But some of those titles just are great. And that those DC titles I'm enjoying. There's even some Marvel titles that I'm really enjoying the heck out of. I'm not me personally. I'm not so excited about the Daredevil. I read the first arc. I didn't like the way the first arc ended, and so I quit collecting. It was probably a mistake on my part. It's probably
Yes, it was.
I didn't like the way I didn't like the way it ended, where they the 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 facsimile of Clang kind of falls apart, and then they're at the bar at the end of the day, and they're making kind of dumb jokes and laughing. That irritated the shit out of me, and I went, I'm not picking up another title after this because that was just too hokey, and I just no, I'm done. If it's gonna be goofy like that, and I don't need Daredevil to be even though that's the Daredevil I read. Obviously, was a Frank Miller and a City. When they he was the man without fear and became the man without hope, and they pulled him through a lot of knotholes and whatnot. I didn't necessarily need that. I was all fine with him being this more high adventure kind of thing, but I don't want to feel like it's not taking itself seriously, and it didn't feel like it was taking itself seriously there, and so that's why I didn't. But I'm enjoying the heck out of Greg Rucka's Punisher, and
Hmm.
that's so bizarre for me to say because I have no interest in Punisher whatsoever. But the way he's telling that story, where he's telling it around everybody around him, the story has less to do with him directly, and it's not like, I mean, he only says maybe 4 words in most of the comics that are there, but the story about him and about the people around him is just really, really good. And I'm enjoying the hell out of that comic.
So Travis, did you this also is news from Marvel? Did you hear that? Speaking of Punisher, they're going to do a Punisher Daredevil Spider-Man crossover.
Yes.
I'm
Not
actually
looking, I'm not
really.
looking forward to that. No, no.
I'm actually interested in that. I'll
Because
pick that up.
because probably my problem has always been with the Punisher. What does the Punisher do? He goes out and he just freaking kills people. That's what he does. Indiscriminately kills bad guys. And the bad guys that he doesn't kill, the only reason he doesn't kill them is because he's following that bad guy back to the rat nest so he can kill even more bad guys. How does that match up with Daredevil and Spider-Man?
You're right.
So the second you put him next to them, I don't see how they have any choice but to either either they have to really question their own morals. Do I allow this basically murderer to continue his escapade of just butchering people? Or if I'm morally sound, right, don't I have to arrest him too? I don't know. So see, I like the fact that this Punisher is in the regular Marvel universe. He's not in some Ultimate Universe or Max Universe where he doesn't have to deal with the other heroes. He has to deal with them, but yeah, he's whacking a bunch of bad guys, but he also, I don't know, he keeps it enough on the down low that he doesn't 100% attract their attention. But now that they're going to put him in a title with these other people, and that puts him directly in direct conflict with them, I don't see how Daredevil and Spider-Man, how do they justify, unless that's what the story is going to be about, how do they justify letting this man continue to operate?
Well,
Right?
you'll have to read the story to find out, right?
No. I don't want to pick up that Daredevil and a Spider-Man.
Well, I will pick it up for you.
Well, I may end up picking it up.
Oh, okay.
What I need to find out is I need to find out which book does it start out in.
Yeah.
And kind of figure that out and decide what I'm going to do. I'll probably pick them up just to make sure I'm not missing something. But yeah, I wasn't excited to hear that.
Well, I tell you what, if we do pick them, if we both pick them up, we could always come back here and talk about them and see if
Fears or
you're justified. Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Well, I think we should wrap it up, Travis. Our best of is over with here. I tell you what, like you said, 2011 was, I think, a really good year for comics in general. I read a lot of great stuff, obviously. I'm looking forward to what comes in 2012 and seeing specifically how these the New 52 comics from DC. Although here we are 4 months in, maybe we shouldn't be calling it New 52 anymore. But to see where these titles go through the year and what new stuff, other than the six that we mentioned at the top of the podcast,
Yeah.
what comes out and where they're
Yeah.
going and
Well,
what's going on.
I'm definitely looking forward to getting into next September and whatnot, and us sitting down and talking about the New 52 in the DC universe and what's it look like in a year.
Hmm. Hmm.
Definitely.
Yeah. All right. So that's it for this episode. Please let us know what you think the best of 2011 was for you, and specifically if you agree or especially disagree of any of the things that Travis and I have listed for these categories. Let us know if there are categories that you think that we didn't talk about that we should have. I had a bunch more categories, but I didn't want to have too many to throw out there, and it was just a lot. It would just add to the work that we had to do for the
Yeah.
for the podcast. So I took those out, but I'd be glad to have a conversation with people about what categories we should be talking about, and maybe if we do a best of 2012, maybe we'll add those in. Also, like I said, let us know what you think about the categories, and I'd be glad to read stuff on the air, or you could even send me audio as well. And you can do that by sending emails to longboxreview@gmail.com. You can leave comments at the blog. Please also, please, people, leave reviews at iTunes. I'd like to get the podcast more aware to those people who like to listen to comics podcasts. It'd be great if you could do that. I'd appreciate it very much. Travis, you have anything you want to add?
Nope.
All right. Well, then that is it for the Long Box Review podcast. Thank you very much, Travis. We'll get together soon and talk more comics.
Awesome. Have a good one.
All right. You too. And thanks for listening.